Mishpachah. This is another video from GoyaGroup.com. We constantly strive to come to an understanding with everyone who wishes to serve the Most High, Yahuah Elohim. Yahuah Elohim is the name of the Creator, commanded to keep for all time. If this concept is foreign or strange to you, please review our video, Who is Your Mighty One? Now, many of us understand who we are, and if not, please watch our video, 15 Questions About Who You Really Are. As everyone is gaining understanding of what it is we need to do in regards to keeping the festivals, the Shabbat, and just being obedient in general to Yahuah Elohim, we're going to try to focus now on understanding when these appointed times are. This video will attempt to explain what the true calendar is for Yisrael, which is Israel, and how to follow it. This is the second video in the series about obeying Yahuah Elohim. The first video was, should we observe the festivals? Since keeping the festivals are a part of obeying Torah of Elohim, which is the instructions of Elohim, and a command to keep forever, no matter where you are, throughout your generations, we told how to keep them or explain how to keep them with scripture in the first video. And the second video of the series is going to provide instruction on when to observe them. Now, there are many divisions in Israel, and one such divide is this calendar. We're not going into the other ones or even addressing them here. We're focusing on the Kodosh, or the set-apart days, and how to calculate them. The calendar is such a deep and complex topic, we had to break this video up into 3 parts, ranging from about 35 to 40 minutes or so in length. This is the first part of the video called Understanding the Enochian Calendar, Part 1. Because before we can even go into how to use this calendar, the other calendars must be discredited. This goes for the Gregorian and the moon calendars people use today. Let us first examine this Goyim calendar currently in use today. The Gregorian calendar. This is the Gentile calendar that is the most widely used civil calendar internationally. It's named after Pope Gregory the 13th, who introduced it in October of 1582 CE. This calendar is not even 500 years old yet. It is a modification to the Julian calendar, which was a calendar in place before it that was proposed by Julius Caesar in 46 BCE, and was itself a modification of the Roman calendar. The original Republic Roman calendar. This thing consisted of 10 months, beginning in spring with March, which is like ours, is legit, and the winter was left as an unspecified period of time. It was just a whole dark period right there. They didn't even know what was going on. It was just a period of weeks that consisted of 8-day weeks. So it's not even in a 7-day cycle. And it ended by a religious ritual and a public market or bazaar or something. The winter periods were later used for the creation of the months of January and February. The Julian calendar went into effect on 1 January 45 BCE by law and was the predominant calendar in the Roman Empire, most of Europe, and in the European settlements, and eventually extended to the Americas and beyond. It was continually refined and altered until it was gradually replaced by the Gregorian calendar in the 16th century CE. Both the Gregorian and its predecessor, the Julian, are 365-day calendars with an approximate 0.002% correction in length of the calendar year made by the Gregorian. This common year of 365, dividing into 12 months, causes you to have to add a leap year. The reason the calendars had to be continually altered was due to the drift of the calendar with respect to the equinoxes and solstices, and specifically the northern vernal equinox, which was used to set the date for the Roman Easter festival. We have lost so much more than simply our culture and our heritage. We have also lost our connection to the deeper understandings of our surroundings, the environment, the wind, the sun, all these things. This diagram is a picture of the pattern of the suns. Notice that you see there's 4 points. Solstice, equinox, solstice, equinox. 2 equinoxes, 2 solstices. The solstice is the longest day, the longest portion of light you get. That's the summer one. On the other side of that, opposite, is the winter solstice. They're getting the longest point of night. Both equinoxes, the vernal, which is the spring one, and the autumnal, which is the autumn or fall one, are both equally apart. Equal day, equal night. This sun, our sun, travels in a pattern that brings it higher in the sky to a peak at the summer solstice, then to its lowest point at the winter solstice. And there are 2 equinoxes in between each of the solstices. Let us refocus back on the Gregorian calendar here. As stated, this thing has to be adjusted from its 365-day cycle to a 366-day cycle every 4 years with leap year. This is where they add an extra day on February 29th. This is solely to correct this drift. Now, I know many people may wonder, what is this drift? As I wonder what the drift is, but you've all seen it and you've all noticed it. Take whatever day you celebrate your birthday on. In fact, let's go ahead and say your birthday falls on a Shabbat. Say you keep the weekly Sabbath every year on Saturday. You were born on the Sabbath, right? You were born on June 4th. That's an example for 2016. Let's go to 2017. Notice your birthday and the Shabbat has moved to Sunday. Then go to 2018. It's now in Monday. It is moving by 1 day. We will come back to this point in the last part of this video, but 2 things should be abundantly clear here. The first is that the Gregorian calendar, which evolved from the Roman calendar, cannot be the proper calendar to utilize for festival days or Shabbats or anything. The reason being is it and all its previous versions were created way after the festivals of the ancient Ib'rim, who are the Hebrews. So when those days were ordained, the Romans and the other festivals and other calendars they used for their festivals weren't even thought of yet. The second point is that it isn't a perfect calendar, and the days change from year to year, which is confusion. And Yahuah is not about any confusion. This calendar, as I stated, is a Roman model of time. This is a Western concept of time. So you cannot use it or apply it to Eastern cultures. The years, weeks, and months were not solemn or traditional times to the Romans. They lengthened or shortened their years at a whim. And their accounts of time were not established by the same precision as the ancient Israelites. In fact, Julius Caesar, after his victory over Pompey, used his position as Rome's chief pontiff to enact the calendar's reform in 46 BCE, as well as making the year of his 3rd consulship last for 446 days. That's for 1 year. Therefore, this calendar and all of its versions cannot be observed for any festival or any days that require precision from year to year from the beginning of time. God willing, we have knocked down the Gregorian calendar as a viable option to keep the Ib'rim measure of time and festivals, so that we can move on to the other calendar in question. Many of Yisrael today and Jewish populations worldwide utilize and observe a lunar calendar. This calendar is even faultier than the Gregorian. First of all, it has to be corrected every 2 to 3 years with a leap month. This is a whole month as opposed to a single day that corrects the Gregorian. Because of the lunar calendar is a 354-day calendar. Some will use a lunisolar calendar like the Jews, which lunar months are brought into alignment with the solar year through some process of intercalation, which is typically an equinox or solstice depending on the belief system of the user. So to stop their drift, they use a solstice or an equinox to anchor their year. The purely lunar calendar, such as the Islamic calendar, lack any intercalation at all. And this causes the lunar months to cycle through all the seasons of a Gregorian year over the course of a 33 lunar year cycle. So everybody's ear should be poked up right there. That should be a red flag for anybody who is in the study of truth, because we should all understand that 33 is a Kabbalistic number and can be found in many Masonic symbols as well as many other secret societies. This specific calendar was warned and prophesied about in Sefer Ib'rim, or the Book of Jubilees, and it may be one of the reasons why this book was removed from canon. Book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verses 34 to 38. And all the children of Yisrael will forget and will not find the path of years, and will forget the new months and seasons and Shabbat, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth I declare it to you, and it is not of my own devising, for the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, unless they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles, Goyim, after their error and their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days of the Kadosh with the unclean, and the unclean day with the Kadosh, for they will go wrong as to the months and Shabbats and feasts and Yobelim. For this reason I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them. For after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. And for this reason they will go wrong as to the new months and seasons and Shabbatot and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. All calendars that are not 364 days only will cause error. The calendar given to Tanakh consists of exactly 364 days, and the lunar and lunisolar calendars both have 354 days, which makes them end 10 days too soon. And they disturb all the other days and push them out of alignment. This text was written at least 2,000 years ago and testifies that for this reason, the changing of the year from a set 364 days, the calculations of all the festivals and Shabbatot will be lost. Some may question the validity of Sefer Tanakh, or the Book of Enoch, or if it actually contradicts the Bible. But you have to ignore far too much scripture to believe that, as the scriptures not only teaches directly from the writing, it also directly quotes it. The 66-book canon, or the Christian Bible, supports Sefer Tanakh without question. Let us first go to the beginning. Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 6, verse 1. Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the Bnei Ha-Elohim, the sons of Elohim, saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all whom they choose. And Yahuah said, My Ruach, or my spirit, shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were Nephilim, which is H5303, or Hebrews 5303, on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when Bnei Ha-Elohim came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Those verses of the text inform us that men began to increase on the earth. And when daughters were born to the men, the sons of Elohim saw them, and they took wives of the men. This created the ancient mighty men of renown. Some translations use the word giants instead of Nephilim, which means fallen ones. The root word nephal means to fall, and is where nephil is derived. The root nephal is a verb that means to fall or lie, and is Hebrews or H5307. The word Nephilim is Hebrews H5303 and is often mistranslated as giants and is spelled almost as its root word with a slight addition. The word for giants in Ib'rim is Rapha, Hebrews or H7947, as in Raphaim, and is different than Nephil. The word is Raphaim and is a proper name of a people, an old race of giants. Ib'rim, chapter 2 or chapter 3. Ib'rim, chapter 3, verse 11, chapter 2, verse 20, are the first witnesses to this. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants, or Rapha, H7947. Indeed, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. Is it not in Rabbah of the people of Ammon? 9 cubits is its length, and 4 cubits is its width, according to the standard cubit. 9 cubits equate to about 14 feet. He was a giant, and according to the scriptures, he was the only remnant of the great giants. When we sit up here and we look at this scale of man, this should give you some perspective. 12 to 18 feet is where Og Bashan lied. Compare that to an average 6-foot man, and you can see these were not mortal people. Verse 20 of chapter 2. That was also regarded as land of the giants, Rapha, H7947. Formerly dwelt there, but the Ammonites call them Zemzumin. These are more contemporary photos. As stated, 9 cubits are about 14 feet. This Anglo here on the left is no more than about 8 feet. He towers over this other guy. The right picture of the Asian or the Moabite, he stands about 7.5 feet. Neither of these men are as tall as Og Bashan by almost half. Shema'al Beit, or 2 Samuel, chapter 5, verse 18, is the second witness to this. The Philistines also went and deployed themselves in the valley of Rephaim. Same Strongs. Bimidbar, chapter 13, verse 32, or the book of Numbers, 13, verse 32. The land through which we have gone as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants. All the people whom we saw in it are men of great stature. Verse 33. There we saw the Nephil. Some translations have it as giants, but the word is H5303. The descendants of Anak came from the Nephil, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so were we in their sight. The Nephil, H5303, and Rapha, H7947, are 2 distinct races of pre-flood or antediluvian people that managed to still exist after the Great Deluge, or flood. Og Bashan was the last of the Rapha, and the Anakim were an example of the Nephil. Both of these were 2 distinct tribes existing in the time prior to the flood and also afterwards. This photo on the left is an example of a Paracas skull. Do any independent research and you will find there are many pieces in anthropology and archaeology that are not what you would classify as human. This is not some skull deformation. These are definitely non-human beings. The picture on the right gives a contextual or geographical context to where Yerushalayim or Jerusalem, Beit Lacham or Bethlehem is, in the valley of the Rephaim. This is the valley of the giants spoken about in the scriptures. Yisrael had to go through there and kill and clear out non-human people. This is why scriptures tells you kill all the men, all the women, all the children. People think the father was being hardcore and telling them to, kill innocent babies. These were not what you would classify as human. This is testified in Sefer Yobelim, or the Book of Jubilees, chapter 7, will be the first witness to the varying races before the deluge or the flood. Verse 21 of chapter 7 reads, "For owing to these three things came the flood upon the earth, namely, the owing to the fornication where the watchers against the law of their ordinances went a whoring after the daughters of men, and took themselves wives of all which they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begot sons, the Nephidim, and they were all unalike, and they devoured one another. And the giants, or Raphah, slew the Nephil, and the Nephil slew the Elio, and the Elio mankind, and one man another." Sefer Kanak, or the book of Enoch, chapter 7, is the second witness to the other races existing before the deluge. It reads, "And they," context of the woman, "bore to them," meaning the watchers, "three races. The first, the great giants, Raphah. The giants brought forth," some versions say slew, "the Nephilim. And the Nephilim brought forth, or slew, the Elio. And they existed, increasing in power according to their greatness." This is awful similar to the Clash of the Titans told by the Greeks. The Anunnaki as told by ancient Sumer. The Vedas told by India. All three refer to a clash of monsters created by what we would call deities today, which almost destroyed the whole world. The most common resistance to Sefer Kanak as an inspired writing is the notion that Malachim, or angels, came down and defiled themselves with women. Some will claim that the term B'nai Ha-Elohim is in reference to the good sons of Sheth, who is Seth, that went into the bad daughters of Cain. But that just isn't supported by scripture anywhere. In fact, the term B'nai Ha-Elohim is a phrase used multiple times in scriptures, and it refers to Malachim, or angels, just as suggested. If we use scripture, the term B'nai Ha-Elohim is defined perfectly. The book of Eob is the first witness to this. Chapter 1, verse 6. "Now there was a day when the B'nai Ha-Elohim, or the sons of Elohim, came to present themselves before Yahuah. And Shaitan also came among them." Chapter 2, verse 1. "Again there was a day when the B'nai Ha-Elohim, the sons of Elohim, came to present themselves before Yahuah. And Shaitan came also among them to present himself before Yahuah." Unless we believe that Hashatan travels to Yahuah with the good sons of Sheth, that phrase cannot be in respect to mankind, but rather to actual Malachim. Lucas chapter 20, verse 36 is the second witness to this phrase meaning Malachim. It reads, "Nor can they die anymore," talking about people, "for they are equal to the Malachim," which means messengers or angels, "and are B'nai Ha-Elohim," or the sons of Elohim, being sons of the resurrection. Immortality is defined as being equal to the Malachim, and thus making you as B'nai Ha-Elohim. This means that Malachim did indeed leave their estate in Shamayim, which is the heavens above, and consorted with women. This produced men who were powerful and legendary, men like Zeus, Hercules, and Thor. These are all ancient men with powers of eternal renown, and the standard 66-book canon agrees with this sentiment in every way. Or the book of Jude, chapter 1, is the first witness to this agreement. Verse 6. "And the Malachim," angels, "who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. As Sodom and Gomorrah," or Sodom and Gomorrah, "and the cities around them in a similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire." Yahudah is one of the 12, and he's a brother to Yaakov, the leader of the following after Yahusha. This is James. He is using the example of the Malachim who left their place and profaned themselves with women as a lesson about Sodom and Gomorrah, who did the exact same thing and were destroyed. And these Malachim are currently locked up in eternal darkness until the day of judgment. Tanakh chapter 10 verse 15 is where Yahudah received his understanding. It reads, To Mikael, this is Michael, likewise Adonai, or the Master, said, Go and announce to Shemyaza and to the others who are with him, who have been associated with women, that they might be polluted with all their impurity. And when all their sons shall be slain, when they shall see the perdition of their beloved, bind them for 70 generations underneath the earth, indeed, until the day of judgment and of consummation, until the judgment, which will last forever, is completed. See for Tanakh directly later in the same chapter for emphasis. Verse 14. Now Tanakh, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men also, saying, Behold, the Master comes with 10,000 of his saints to execute judgment on all, to convict all who are wicked among them, of all their wicked deeds which they have committed in a wicked way, and of all the harsh things which wicked sinners have spoken against him. Those verses are a direct quote from Sefer Tanakh, chapter 2, verse 1. Behold, he comes with 10,000s of his Kodashim, meaning dedicated ones, or chosen, to execute judgment upon them, and destroy the wicked, and reprove all the carnal for everything which is sinful and evildoers have done and committed against him. Kepha Beit, or 2 Peter, is the second witness to this. Chapter 2, verse 4 reads, For if Elohim did not spare the Malachim, messengers or angels, who sinned, but cast them down to Tartarus, Sheol or hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of 8 people, a proclaimer of righteousness, bringing in the flood of the world of the wicked. This is a Talmudim of Yahusha directly, one of the 12. This is Kepha the Rock. He is teaching using Sefer Tanakh, or the Book of Enoch. There is no other writing found in the 66-book canon of the Christian Bible that mentions Malachim or angels being chained up in hell for all their sins until Judgment Day. Tanakh 10 is also where Kepha got his understanding from. Verse 6 read, And Adonai said to Raphael, this is Raphael, Bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into darkness, and opening the desert which is in Dudaal, cast him there. Throw upon hurled and pointed stones, covering him with darkness. There he shall remain forever, cover his face, that he might not see the light. And in Yom Hadin, or the great judgment day, let him be cast into the fire. Sefer Tanakh, therefore, was a writing heavily utilized, even up to the 1st century, and in the time of Mashiach. Furthermore, the lunar calendar was not even created by the ancient Ib'rim, nor was it utilized by them for festivals or Shabbatot, which is Sabbaths. The Lunisolar calendar may have been created by Hellenized Yehudim, or even the Jews, which are the Edomites, who remained after the exile in 70 CE. These calendars require the observation of what is called a new moon, or the first crescent after an actual new moon, which is an empty or totally dark moon. I know some listening will claim that a dark moon as a new moon is a westernized version of it, or lies of the white man, but that doesn't seem relevant to me at all, as the practice of the observance of the crescent moon is not new and symbolic of the ancient worship of bulls during the age of Taurus, of which indicates the precession of the equinox. This photo on the right here is an example of the age of Taurus. Notice the crescent horns and the star or the big bright light in the middle. As we go into a better understanding of the calendar in the third part of this video, we will get into the precession of the equinoxes and speak of the ages. Right now, we are waiting for the age of Aquarius. During the time of Abraham existed the age of Taurus. This is why you had a lot of animals being sacrifices and worship of bulls, Molech and the like, the golden calf. All of this was because the age of Taurus signified bulls. Yeah, let's get that out of here. The observation of the new moon in respects to month is actually from Greek culture, the ways of the Goyim, after the Gentiles, after the heirs, going back as far as 750 BCE, and originated from the moon worship through a deity named Selene or Diana. This is your Wonder Woman, everybody who's a comic fan or see pop culture. Or you can see him as Columbia today. And just as her brother Helios, where the word holy is derived from his association with Apollo, is called Phobos, which means bright. Selene, from her identification with Artemis, which is another form of Ishtar or Inanna, is also commonly referred to by the epithet Phoebe. You got Phoebe and Phobos on the left and on the right, the moon and the sun. That's all that this has been about the whole time. Two into one. The crescent moon with the bright sun, or the star right there for the worship in the middle. Oh yeah. Apollo is understood by the Ib'rim, which is the Hebrews, to be the fallen one locked under the earth, according to scriptures, thus making any association with it or its teachings totally taboo. That is a definite no-no. You got to stay away from those things. Chazon, or Revelations 9:11, bears witness to this. They, meaning the demons, had as a king over them the Malik, messenger or angel, of the abyss, whose name in Ib'rim is Abaddon, and in Greek is Apollyon. That is destroyer. There is your Apollo right there, or Helios, the sun, the destroyer, Baal, Bel, Nimrod, same cat. It is Azazel. Who is this Malik or angel underneath the earth in the abyss? Nowhere in scriptures do you find him, anywhere. You got to go back to Tanakh, chapter 10, yet again. And again Adonai said to Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into darkness, and opening the desert which is in Dudaal, cast him in there. Verse 12, and all the earth has been corrupted by the effects of the teachings of Azazel. To him, therefore, ascribe the whole crime. This is the guy right here, the end all, the destroyer, the bringing of the end, the whole crime. Azazel, chained under the earth. This destruction is nothing, or this being of destruction is nothing but a transition from ancient deities or ancient worship from the old to the new. Everything goes back to ancient Sumer, ancient Mesopotamia, which is ancient Babylon. It was not called Babylon until the fall of the tower. Prior to that, it was Sumer. This is where you get the tales of the Anunnaki and all that. Nimrod, Ishtar, Tammuz, the 3-in-1, your Trinity. That's it, laid out right there before you. They're all the same things going all throughout time. Same worship, same creatures, just changing clothes, changing faces to suit the people and the cultures of the time. You have the crescent moon, which is Ishtar, Isis, Inanna, Semiramis, Diana, the Virgin Mary, Columbia, all the same thing, with the star or the sun completing the whole. Osiris, Bel, Zeus, Baal, Jehovah, Moloch. Tammuz is the sun, born of a virgin birth or an immaculate conception. The sun impregnated the mother, creating Horus, Mithra, Bacchus, Serapis, Iasus, Jesus. They're all the same thing. If you want to learn more about the changing of ancient deities and ancient worship into new ones, please check out our website, goyagroup.com. You can also read some peer-reviewed works, such as Martin Brunel, which is Black Athena, and The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. Even a study of the ancient historians, such as Berosus, who was a Chaldean historian and explained how men were worshipped as deities, and they transitioned to the other nations, as well as the Greek historian Herodotus, who explains the adoption of the Greek deities from the older African ones. The records of Selene and Helios are accounted by Hesiod, who was a Greek poet widely considered by scholars to have been alive sometime between 750 and 650 BCE, which was during the time of Homer. This is a picture of it on the right, his workings or writings. The picture on the left is of a statue. The oldest statue of Selene is from the 5th century BCE, which we displayed earlier. This one on the left right now is from the 19th century. Notice the crescent moon in all the statues of Selene. It's the #1 thing on Premiere, either on her head or she's carrying it. That is not a coincidence. It is symbolic for the worship of the crescent moon and the origin for its observation of the new moon for lunar calendars. This is a common theme from the ancient world and its worship of pagan deities. It is associated with the start of the month based on lunar observation or the moon festival of the month. Nomina. We say new moon. This word is Greek in origin, G3561, or Greeks 3561. Nomena. This is where your new moon comes from. Short definition, the new moon as a festival. The new moon, first of the month. This has nothing to do with the Ib'rim. This is clearly seen in images of Baal or Bel. Notice the crescent moon with the sun in there. In imagery from ancient Kemet. You see, that's the 3-in-1. The Ishtar, the mother, Osiris, the father in the middle, Horus, the son on the left. Notice the crescent moon with the sun. I also notice they all got serpents coming out their head too. I don't know if anybody else picked that one up. It is even seen on Islamic flags and symbols today. But as shown, its origins are far older, going back to ancient Kemet and even Sumer. So this whole thing with the crescent moon, this is Greek or pagan origin, and it's ancient Kemet and Sumer and its original origin. Each crescent moon, you notice, has a star or sun inside of it. This symbolizes the worship of Semiramis, or the Queen of Heaven, in unison with Nimrod, the crescent moon, and the bright star, 2-in-1. If any more information is desired about the transition of the old deities into more modern ones, please watch our video, Who is Your Mighty One? The national use of any lunar calendar by Israel never occurred, for the simple fact that it wasn't implemented until 359 CE by Hillel II. He was also simply known as Hillel. He held the office of Nazi with the ancient Jewish Sanhedrin from about 320 to 350 or 385 CE. It was he who first introduced the fixed new moon calendar, which is the Lunisolar calendar that is based on the combining observances of the earth, moon, and sun, and is still in use by Judaism even to this day for the determination of the first day of the month. Yisrael as a whole were mostly dispersed with the destruction of the Second Temple, which was prophesied by Hamashiach. Matthew 24 is witness to this. Verse 1 reads, Yahushua left the temple and was walking away when his Talmudim, or his taught ones or disciples, came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you see all these things? He asked. Truly, I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Everyone will be thrown down. The temple was destroyed in 70 CE by Titus and his father Vespasian, which is depicted here in the Ark of the Titus, which is located in Rome. The children of Israel were expelled in 70 CE by and large due to the First Judean-Roman War, which was from 66 to 73 CE. And then the rest of us were removed by the Bar Kokhba Revolt, which was from about 132 to 136 CE. Both of these were nationalistic or racial rebellions. It was the goal in mind to restore an independent Judean state that was free from Roman or Edomite rule, We wanted to control our calendar systems. We wanted to control our offerings, our taxes. We wanted to set up our laws, which we did not keep before. This is all a matter of record. And since they were gone, the institution of the lunar calendar by Hillel II, 250 years after Yisrael was largely removed from the city and the surrounding area through the conflicts with the Romans, this means it could not have had anything to do with the people, not with the ritualistic practices, the days, or anything. These are all the Goyim, the Gentiles, as they trampled things down to the end of the age of the Gentiles. What happened was that once they removed the children of Yisrael, the Edomites and Romans were not able to maintain the language, which was Aramaic at the time, nor the sacred days. So they were not the chosen people, and they were blinded to understanding of the Kodesh language and customs. Without Yisrael to be a light to the Goyim, many people are lost in understanding. The Sanhedrin, therefore, altered the language by the middle of the first millennia, which is about 500 CE, through the Masoretes. This was a group of Edomite or Jewish scribes and scholars that changed the foundation of the faith of Yisrael between the 6th and 10th centuries CE. They were mostly based in present-day Israel, the cities of Tiberias, Jerusalem, Iraq or Uruk, which was Babylonia. These Edomites were those people who were of the Herodian dynasty that got to stay after Yisrael was removed. When we take a look at these parchments here, we see on the left is an Aramaic script. On the right is an Aramaic script with a nikud or a vowel point system added to it. We're going to see how this whole thing broke everything down. Each of these groups worked hard to create a new system of pronunciation and grammatical guides in the form of religious texts we now call the Babylonian Talmud. This was done by these various groups to standardize this foreign pronunciation to their new adoptive culture and organize their new Jewish Bible, the Tanakh. This was for a worldwide Jewish community to consume. The key thing to note here is that there are nearly 1,000 differences between the two prevailing Masoretic translators of Ben Ashar and Ben Naphtali. This is where the vowel points or the nikud emerged from, as well as the changing or the translation errors that reflected their new worship system, and all this confusion came into play. I'll give an example of this, so maybe it makes more sense. Let's take the name or the word same, okay? Real simple. In Ib'rim, it would just be SM. Now, with that, that gives you a lot of room for translation errors, okay? It could be some as in SUM, some as in SOME. It could be Sam as in the name Sam, so all of those are valid uses of those letters. Depending on the other verbs or adjectives that are in the rest of the sentence or the work, it tells you how the rest of that word is supposed to play out. For this reason, many people will rightfully note that the observation of the new moon is explicitly commanded by Elohim. And I am no one to counter the debar of Elohim. But men copied these texts, and men are not like Elohim. This is the letter Beit, or the number 2 in Hebrew. Depending on the vowel points or the nikud, they can make it do anything. It can be a ba, it can be a be, it can be a b, it can be a bu, or a bo. Depending on the uses of their vowel point or nikud, it can vastly change the meaning of words. The term new moon or Yaraik Kadash is not found in the Hebrew scriptures anywhere. Not one point anywhere in any writing at any point. And the word Kodesh or month is in reference to the solar month. The word Kodesh, which can either mean month or new month, and the word Kadash, which means new, were switched. This is a case of intentional translation errors used to support a doctrine. The word Kodesh is Ket, Dalet, Shen, or KH, a K sound, D, and a sh sound. That's basically 3 letters. And you can maneuver or manipulate those other letters to mean the vowel sounds any way you want it to be. So when we look at the word yarak, which means month in reference to a complete month, and the word yaraik, or moon, you can see that they were obviously switched as well. The Ib'rim word for moon in the Old Testament is yaraik, which is H3394 in Strong's. Yaraik, or moon, is used about 27 times in the standard 66-book canon Bible. Sefer Devarim, or the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 19, chapter 17, verse 3, and Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 37, verse 9, are a few examples of this. 4:19 of Devarim. Unless you lift up your eyes to the Shamayim, or heavens above, and shall see the sun, and the moon, Yadaik, and the stars, and all the hosts of the Shamayim, and you be drawn to bow down to them, and to serve them, which Yahuah your Elohim has allotted to all the peoples under Shamayim. Chapter 17, verse 3, and has gone and served other mighty ones, which is deities, and bowed down to them, or to the sun, or to the moon, Yadaik, or to any of the hosts of the Shamayim, which I have not commanded. Bereshit, or Genesis, chapter 37, verse 9. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brothers, and said, Look, I have dreamed a dream more. And look, the sun and the moon, Yadaik, which is H3394, and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. This word, H3394, is the example in all of these verses. It means moon, clearly, without a doubt. It is clear what was stated before. Strong's Concordance, H3394, Yadaik, moon. The original word is the Yod, Resh, Ket. When we're looking at those letters there, you see there are 3 letters. The little dash looks like a backwards R and an N. Those are the Ib'rim, or the Hebrew letters in Aramaic script. Now you can use Paleo script, but the language will still be the same. But the script is what is changing. Those little dots and dashes and arrows, those are vowel point insertions, or the nakud, to denote how the letters or the vowel points are supposed to be used. This is someone's interpretation, because that was not original part of the text at all. And when we look at the word that was used in those places for new moon, it is H2320. That is Kodesh. It can also be translated as month. When examining the word H3391, Yirak, which is a month, look at the letters. A Ya, or Yod, a Resh, and a Ket. The only difference between these 3 letters used in this word and the other word are the nakud, or the vowel points. This word means a month. That's exactly what it was always supposed to mean. The word used in the verses, as stated earlier, is H2320, Kodesh, new moon, or a month. Now, we're going to go over this and look and see why this word cannot mean new moon. Not only because it does not have a moon in it, but because of its usage as well. This is a verse from Tehillim, or Psalms, that uses the phrase new moon, that many people use to prove that you're supposed to utilize the new moon in some shape or fashion. When we were viewing this text in the actual Ib'rim language, it is evident that there is no mention of the word moon, or Yadaik, at all, and only Kodesh. The word Yadaik is not anywhere in this verse or any of the others that people claim for new moon. Take a look at the highlighted position right there, or the highlighted area. You can clearly see that that is the phrase right there. Blow up at the new moon, the trumpet at the full, or the shofar. That word they have for new moon It only says new. Ba Chodesh. I know it says Ba Hodes, but there's vowel points in this as well. As you can see over the S, there's a little curvy line that denotes a shin. The H has a dot under it that denotes a chet. You can see the same thing when you look at the word trumpet, where it says shofar. We know that's not a sofar, it's a shofar. That S is a shin. So when looking at the language for what it literally says, the word moon, or the concept of new moon, is a total insertion. The root word of Chodesh, or month, is Chodash, which is H2318 in Strong's. Chodash is translated into English as to renew, thus its usage as a term new month. These are a few examples of the word Chodesh, or month, used 274 times in the Torah or Tanakh, which is the Old Testament. Bereshith, which is Genesis chapter 5 or chapter 8, verse 5. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. Now, if it says, some of your versions will say 10th new moon, but that word is H2320. And in the 10th month, or your version may say 10th new moon, on the first day of the month, that is H2320. So it may say again, new moon, but that is month, were the tops of the mountain seen. Shemot, or Exodus, chapter 19, verse 1. In the third month, H2320, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Mizraim, or Egypt, the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. This should be the first red flag for you. That word right there, if it literally meant new moon, we know the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai was not on a new moon. We know that. Wa'ikra, or Leviticus 23:5. In the 14th day of the first month, or the 14th day of the new moon, at even is Yahuah's Pesach. Now, that verse leaves, I understand, that verse leaves a little room to say, well, you know what? That could be the 14th day of the new moon. If we're using the new moon as a dictator, that makes sense. But it falls apart when we continue the examination of the text. So let's take a detailed examination of the KJV, or the King James Version. This will reveal this addition of the word moon. When we look at the printed text, you will notice that the word moon is italicized, meaning that it was not an original part of that text, but was rather added or inferred by the translator. This verse, like all the rest, only has the word new, or Kodesh, and the word moon is italicized. Yechezkel, or Ezekiel 46:1. Thus said Yahuah Elohim, the gate of the inner court that looks toward the east shall be shut the 6 working days, but on the Shabbat it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. That word moon there is italicized in the text. Only the word Chodash, which has to mean new month, or it will directly contradict scripture. Here's the proof. Ib'rim, or Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 1. Observe the month, H2320, of Abib, and keep the Pesach to Yahuah Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahuah Elohim brought you out of Mizraim by night. Ooh, hold up. The children of Israel were taken out after the Pesach. The Pesach is on the 14th day of the first month, as covered in Wa'ikra in this video, and all over many other scriptures. If the word Chodesh, H2320, actually referred to a new moon, then it simply could not refer to the start of a month. That is just impossible. Hopefully, we have successfully discredited the lunar and Gregorian calendars at this point, so that we can move on to pinning down the days, as well as the Shabbatot. Shalom. Appreciate your time.